So now let's look at the root causes. This is, why do we find ourselves where we are, with a lot of organizations struggling to adapt to these really challenging conditions, economic conditions? The first one there is management. So with management, it really does help if we have a management that takes trust, for instance, as an important sort of value for its organization. It's with trust that organizations are able to, management are able to build the right relationships with their people within the organization, and the people will feel somewhat motivated and committed to deliver at their best ability. So having a management that has consideration for leading by example, and really having some strong values. When we have a good, healthy organization with motivated employees, it does help to adapt to any external changes. And then we have our environment. So our environment really is around our operational systems. Do we have systems in place that will enable us to adapt to change that's going on around us? So do we have the necessary systems in place that would enable us to respond in the most effective way? And then, of course, we have resources. So this is really linked to the management side. Do we have people with the appropriate skills for the future that will enable us to really embrace new ways of change that's ahead of us? So people skilling, and obviously having the right resources in terms of equipment, etc., is also important. Financial models, I guess a typical example there is long-range planning. So quite a lot of organizations have financial forecasts, which are for a year or even more, like 5-year plans. But the question here is that, do we have an opportunity to really revisit our plans and be able to change direction if the need does arise? Or do we just blindly stick with having, sticking to our annual plans and not being able to adapt to any changes, in our environment? And then the last point there is risk aversiveness, and this is really, I guess, this is cultural. Some organizations are more risk averse than others, and it certainly can pose a challenge if we have a culture of trying to avoid risk altogether, because that can also be unhealthy, and it doesn't actually help us to face the future boldly.